Hello everyone. My name is Daniel Etra. I'm Director of Product Management at Higg. I lead Higg's product and user experience design teams for all of our software tools. In my talk today, I'm going to introduce you to Higg and highlight some of the ways that I think what we're doing could be interesting for you and the companies you represent. Now, I want to say up front that I'm not a materials science or textiles expert. My expertise is in creating software that enables you to do things that either weren't possible before or were a lot harder because they were costly or time-consuming, etc. And one of the ways I do this is by learning about what problems our customers are trying to solve. So I wanted to say up front that I'm here to learn from you too, and I'd love to connect after the event and learn about some of your challenges and about how I or Higg might be able to help. When we step back and think about the big picture, we know that to fight climate change, we have to reduce greenhouse gases. Brands are looking for ways to measure and communicate their carbon impact. Emerging policy is requiring that businesses soon begin disclosing environmental impact. But we also know that carbon is just one of the challenges. We also need to be mindful of other impacts, like water consumption, responsible use of chemicals, and how people are treated and affected by our industry around the world. These are the challenges that give Higg its purpose. So let me tell you a little bit about Higg as a company. Higg is the Sustainability Insights platform, helping consumer goods businesses take responsibility for their entire impact, from materials to products, from factories to stores, across energy, waste, water, and working conditions. Our vision is to shift capital towards sustainable products, materials, supply chains, and companies. Now, we are a technology company. We have about 90 employees and are globally remote. Higg was spun out of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition in 2019 as a public benefit company after about 10 years of incubation. Now, I'm sure that many of you are aware of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, known as the SAC. For those who are not familiar with it, the SAC is a global nonprofit alliance for the consumer goods industry that developed the Higg Index. The Higg Index is an essential suite of tools for the standardized measurement of supply chain sustainability. Now, Higg, the company, is the exclusive licensee of the Higg Index, and our standing as a public benefit company signals our commitment to a more sustainable future. We promote industries that impart a positive impact on individual workers, local communities, and the whole planet. We believe that all paths to improvement begin with measurement, but don't end there. It's only through accurate measurement that a business can understand where they really are today, determine where they should be, and chart a path to get there. However, data collection should never be an end in and of itself. Simply put, measurement is not impact reduction. Impact happens in the steps after, when a product designer can confidently choose a material that uses less water, when a manufacturer earns a new contract because they've documented their transition to renewable energy, or when a brand expands investments in their low-impact product line because it's proven to appeal to new customers. Ultimately, impact reduction comes from businesses being rewarded for their sustainable choices. Today, there are more than 500 brands using Higg, primarily concentrated in apparel, footwear, and textiles, but we're also seeing growth in hard goods and other consumer goods sectors as well. And tens of thousands of manufacturing facilities use Higg for measuring their performance and sharing that data with their brand and retail partners. We're very proud to work with such a wide variety of businesses to support their sustainability goals. Higg offers a single source for trusted product and value chain sustainability data. Now, this data covers raw materials, factory performance around environmental impacts and working conditions, and full cradle-to-grave LCA and product design tools to better understand the environmental impacts of materials and product design choices. With Higg data, you can unlock a complete view of your company's impact. This enables you to take decisive action to improve your impact, to choose suppliers that produce less emissions, to work with existing suppliers to improve, to find materials that consume less water, or to design products for reduced impact all the way to end of use. Through the data sets we provide or new data we help businesses gather, Higg empowers you to advance continuous improvement in all parts of your business. As one example, manufacturing facilities who completed Higg's Facility Environmental Assessment 3 years in a row indicate a heightened understanding of their energy use and have improved their environmental assessment scores by 20%. Higg assessments are helping them understand where energy use is greatest, so they know where to start with their reduction goals. Higg's technology platform is organized around 3 core capabilities. Measure for collecting value chain performance data within established standards. Manage for working with that data to surface trends and insights. And share for publishing that data to customers and stakeholders. The measurement solutions cover everything from water and energy use by manufacturers in the supply chain to labor impacts such as wages and working conditions, to environmental impacts of materials and products, all the way to corporate operations such as transportation, offices, and retail. With this data collected, you can use analytics to visualize supplier performance, track trends year over year, identify leaders, laggards, and hotspots. We also have ways for sustainability teams to track progress of their manufacturing partners on the environmental and social assessments. And lastly, our platform allows you to publish data-backed claims and reports into the public domain. This information can be shared with consumers or other stakeholders so that you can get credit for your sustainable investments and progress. So I've described a little bit about Higg as a company, and I've mentioned our solutions at a pretty high level, but you're probably wondering, what are actually these tools and how can they help me? I'm going to spend a little bit of time now walking through them in a bit more detail and highlighting along the way some specific examples of how they're being used today by our customers. Now, I recognize that not all of you here today might find all of these relevant. All of them are not directly relevant to materials and product design. But I did want to provide a picture of how these tools fit together to give this holistic view, since there might be others on your teams or listening to this recording who could benefit from different parts of our solutions. I want to start with the product design tools, which are together the Materials Sustainability Index, the MSI, and the product module, known as PM. These 2 modules are separate, but they build on each other to give that full cradle-to-grave insight for finished products that consumers buy. The path to creating more sustainable products requires a clear understanding of the environmental impact and performance of the materials used in those products. This requires reliable and comparable data. Now, as you know, companies collect an extraordinary amount of information from their supply chains, but they're often doing it using different methods and approaches to understand the environmental impacts. This makes it near impossible to compare environmental impacts of materials and empower the industry to make more sustainable choices. This is where the MSI comes in, the Material Sustainability Index. The MSI is a cradle-to-gate simplified LCA tool. It measures the environmental impact of producing a material from raw material extraction up through to material production. So from cotton in the field to finished fabric, as an example. For those that are not familiar with LCA, it stands for Life Cycle Assessment, and it's a method to quantify the environmental impacts for products. It uses scientific models to calculate, for example, how much a product could potentially contribute to global warming or water scarcity throughout its lifetime, and a slew of other indicators. Now, we refer to the MSI as a simplified LCA tool because it focuses on just 5 key impact indicators, rather than the usual 12 to 15 used in most full-blown life cycle assessments. The building blocks of MSI are the base materials, and these are available to everyone. They're also known as example materials, and they include both natural and synthetic fibers. Within MSI, you can then tweak elements of the production stages of material formation, and you can also blend materials together, creating literally millions of potential combinations. Your configurations and blends become your company's custom materials in your materials library, and they're the building blocks for your products. Now, the real power of the MSI is that it takes all these variety of different source LCA results and ensures that the impact areas are consistent. LCAs can often have different impact methods, which can make evaluating them and comparing them really challenging. But the MSI ensures a comparison apples to apples. For example, the same method used across all materials for calculating greenhouse gas emissions. This lets you compare the category impact areas for materials to each other on a standardized spectrum. To make this more tangible, I'll call out a recent case study we just did on a company called Teijin Frontier. Now, since its inception, Teijin has prioritized socially and environmentally responsible operations and looked to cutting-edge solutions to help drive down their impact. Since 2012, the company has used Higg to understand their impact both at a facility and a product level. In 2020, Teijin updated its environmental strategy and launched an aggressive plan to decrease fossil fuel use, chemical pollution, and impact on climate change across all of its operations by 2030. Now, their plan targets that at least 50% of products sold have to be made from recycled materials, and they developed that goal specifically to reduce their carbon impact. The MSI has been a key informant in meeting this goal. They studied the different materials currently in use and identified opportunities to change so they could confidently set that 50% recyclable goal, knowing the outcome would result in data-backed impact reduction. Teijin used the MSI data to show customers the materials with lower environmental impacts. So in one instance, the company proposed a switch with a large client that manufactured uniforms in Japan. They compared 5 different blends across key environmental areas to show the client the total impact of each uniform variation. Armed with clear, objective scores across impact areas, it was a win-win. The fabric met Teijin Frontier's goals and still produced a high-quality material for the client. The company has also used MSI in multiple instances to help prioritize manufacturing their textiles with lower impact. For example, they measured another in-house ultra-lightweight knitted waterproof textile and compared it to an alternative, a high-density woven version. The latter scored noticeably lower across MSI categories. This type of data-driven analysis has been crucial in helping Teijin Frontier stay on track to meet their goals. So how does all this data get into the MSI? That's also one of the unique things about the MSI, and that there is an open contributor process. So the MSI is always expanding as next-gen materials become available, and also as new LCA models are completed or updated for existing materials. All of the data in the MSI is peer-reviewed, and it also sources data from other databases, like Gabi. Now, I know this slide has a lot of text, and I don't expect you to read all of it, but I wanted to show some of the data additions and updates that we're continuously making to this tool. Here's just a snapshot of some of the recent updates. And these kinds of updates happen twice a year and are published publicly. For those of you who are materials creators and want to learn more about the process of getting your materials into the example materials library in the MSI, please send me a note after this and I can give you some more information about it. So that's the MSI. It lets you build your material library and understand the impacts of those materials. And yes, you can share materials on the platform too. So let's say that one of your partners models a new custom material for you. They can share that material directly with you within the platform so that you have it in your library and your design teams can use it. Now, the second piece of the product design tools is the product module, which lets you deep dive into the finished product's impact. Whereas the MSI only looks at cradle-to-gate impacts, the product module builds on the MSI to give you that full cradle-to-grave view. And when I say builds on the MSI, I mean it literally, since any custom material that you have created in MSI is directly available to use in product module as part of your bill of materials. So product module starts with your bill of materials. You can then specify the manufacturing processes for things like assembly, coloration, printing, washing, etc. This continues into further stages: packaging, product care, end of use, and duration of service, to give you that full cradle-to-grave lifecycle impact. This lets you see the overall impact of a product across those same 5 key indicators, and also the impacts per stage. Finally, you can also choose to see impacts as an absolute number and also per use. This is useful as you get into designing for the duration of service. For example, products that last longer also require more washing over their lifespan. So depending on how you measure, this can lead to different decisions based on your objectives, and the tool supports this kind of scenario planning. One example of how brands are using product module to both understand impacts internally but also communicate this to customers is Pearl Izumi, a global cycling apparel brand. They're using data from the Higg product module as the basis for their Pedal to Zero campaign, which tells consumers how far they need to cycle instead of drive to offset the climate change impact of their purchase. Each garment carries, printed on the label, a number revealing the amount of carbon dioxide equivalent created by the production of the garment. And this is all based on Higg's product tools. This enabled the company's designers to look again at the products they created, for example, by choosing materials based on environmental issues rather than just their cost or aesthetics. The team found, for example, that the main body material for a garment was responsible for as much as half of its total impact, and that product care was responsible for another quarter, highlighting the need to educate consumers. Especially for those who are new to thinking about how to quantify product environmental impacts, it can be a little bit daunting to get started. To help with that, the Higg platform uses a variety of defaults depending on the type of product being modeled, and you can literally get started with just a bill of materials and then update from the defaults as you have more information during your design process. These tools, the product design tools, are the easiest, fastest, and cheapest way to get trusted, cradle-to-grave impact information for your products. Both the MSI and product module are supported with APIs, so you can push and pull your data into other systems, for example, into PLMs. Some PLM providers are already adding direct integrations. For example, PTC, Centric, and Decel have both announced plans to integrate. And we're not exclusive about who can integrate, so if you have other platforms you use that might benefit from accessing this type of environmental impact data for materials and products, please, I would encourage you to let them know about our APIs and also let us know. We can reach out to them and give them some more information. I've shared a bit about Higg's product design tools and how they can help you understand materials and product impacts upfront in a design stage, but also for footprinting existing products and comparing them to new variations. But beyond these material and product level tools that are relevant mostly to you in the audience today, another core element of Higg's platform is the collection of primary data directly from facilities about environmental management practices, actual energy, water, and waste usage, and aspects of working conditions and employee treatment at specific locations. These standardized assessments are generally done annually and include both a self-assessment and verification by independent third parties. What this does is it allows facilities to complete one environmental and one social assessment each year, and then share it widely and easily with their brand partners, reducing audit fatigue and allowing facilities to focus on improving rather than completing multiple custom audits for their brand partners. This entire assessment process is managed through the Higg platform so that manufacturers, verifiers, and brands and retailers all access the same data. If you're interested in going deeper to this, please reach out to me afterwards. I do have some extra slides that I'm not going to show today, specifically around the assessment tools. All of these Higg solutions support your business in measuring and improving your impacts. But for most of our customers who are on this sustainability journey, it's not sufficient to reduce impact purely because they know it's the right thing to do, or even because it often just makes economic sense. They also want their customers and stakeholders to know about it, because they all increasingly care about these issues too. And the upcoming regulations, like those proposed in the EU, New York State, or other regions, will increasingly influence the kind of green claims that can be made and the acceptable data and methodologies being used. You want to tell your sustainability story to your customers in ways that resonate with them, builds trust, and motivates them to purchase your products. Higg's transparency offerings are designed to help you share your product impact with your customers, with regulators, and with other stakeholders. With Higg sustainability profiles, you can publish data-backed claims and reports, which can then be referenced from your e-commerce platform or pages or other content that your company creates. Now, one of the first claims that we released last year after extensive collaboration with brands and retailers was a material benchmark claim using Higg's product design tools as the backbone. This allows you to evaluate the relative impact of a product's material content when compared to conventional equivalent materials. So, for example, how much impact reduction comes from a product containing 60% recycled content as compared to the same product made with virgin content. This scorecard can be surfaced on e-commerce pages for consumers and linked back to a publicly available web page hosted by Higg with more details and data. It's currently being used on hundreds of products by Amazon, H&M, Nerona, Fjällräven, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. The scorecard will expand to include factory environmental impacts and social performance, as well as brand performance, to provide a comprehensive view of a product's impacts. Another increasingly important element of transparency is traceability. Traceability is the practice of just tracking a physical movement of materials through the supply chain from raw materials to finished goods, and even to the end of life and rebirth via circularity. Now, I say just tracking, but it is actually incredibly complex. And there are lots of reasons that traceability is important. And there are also lots of emerging technologies and approaches being deployed by brands to better capture and verify chain of custody. Some traceability technologies use physical tracers, such as RFID tags, or even trace elements that are added to raw materials directly. These are then scanned throughout the various processes and stages of product creation to reveal a story about a product's origin and production. At the end of the day, traceability provides a foundation for supply chain optimization, but also for understanding the impacts of a product's journey and providing that information to consumers. To support our customers as they invest in traceability, Higg is partnering with leading traceability technology and solution providers to unlock new supply chain insights. So through these integrations, our customers will be able to, for example, deepen engagement with suppliers at every step along the value chain, all the way from Tier 1 up to Tier 3 and 4. Access Higg data directly within other technology platforms, and automate and scale the kinds of product, environmental, and social scorecards that I just shared as part of our transparency and sustainability scorecard offerings. We're incredibly honored to be doing this important work with all of you and with all of our varied partners. Now, sometimes when you're in the thick of your day-to-day work, it's easy to lose perspective. And there are moments, or maybe events like this one, that make you lift your head up and reflect. Now, this happened to me a few months ago when I found myself scrolling through social media at the end of a long day, and I saw this graphic in a tweet from Fashion Revolution. Now, on one side, we see an interpretation of what most people seem to think sustainable fashion is. It's dominated by spending more money on more sustainable products. On the right, we see an interpretation of what things actually might make a difference, and it's dominated by consuming less. Now, I don't know what data, if any, was behind this chart, but it did get me thinking. In my role at Higg, I spend a lot of time supporting the makers of products to do so with less impact on the environment, and being mindful of how our industry affects the millions of people around the world that keep it running. But this graphic reminded me that consumption of more sustainable products is still consumption. As a clothing consumer, arguably the first and best way to reduce my clothing footprint is simply to wear things for longer, and probably wash them less too. But next best is to purchase products that were designed with the environment and the well-being of garment workers and consumers in mind. And that can only happen if the makers of materials and products have the tools they need to make informed, data-driven decisions. And that's what Higg provides. I want to close by coming back to the main problem that I and all of us at Higg, as well as all the amazing presenters here today at this event, are passionate about solving. We are invested in reducing the environmental impacts of how and where products are made, and also in improving the livelihoods and working conditions of everyone who contributes to the creation of those products. As designers and manufacturers and sustainability professionals, you play a critical role. The decisions you make up front can have massive consequences, not just in the acts of creating products, but also over the course of their whole lifespan. We can't wait for perfect scientific models to be developed, breakthrough materials or processes to be invented, or new regulations to go into effect. We want to partner with companies today to optimize the information that's available today to make better decisions faster. This is our mandate and our purpose, and I hope you will join us. Thank you for your time and attention and engagement today. I look forward to continuing the conversation online and learning more about all of your great work. Thank you again.